Hello, my name is Lucy Fleming.
Hello, my name is Mick Fleming.
And this is Conversations in
Tourism. We just got caught up in life down here. We had to make money. I mean, our first jobs were working at the tobacco farm in San Miguel for $40 a week. I'm not sure that was falling in love. But anyway, over the course of time, we became quite accustomed, and the people who we mixed with and got to know were really very welcoming, and we just felt part of the community. It was interesting how that happened.
I think what we experience, which is what a lot of our guests still experience, is the genuine hospitality of the Belizean people, the willingness of people to really embrace us as foreigners, then young, poor foreigners traveling up and down the river by dugout canoe. And our community really watched us, the San Ignacio community, and really looked after us in a certain kind of a way. So that level of being embraced by the community, I don't know that we'd ever really experienced that, perhaps a little bit from Mick in Africa, but to the same level that certainly I can say that we felt it here. We've always had a respect for the environment. We always loved the natural world. It was really what we had available to market here, and that was all that we had. So our love of nature and our interest in all things natural led to that early development. What would you say, Mick?
I don't think I really have much to add to that, really. We had no money, so we had to work with whatever worked, and certainly people were kind of intrigued by our lifestyle. You know, it seemed like quite normal to us, but that embrace the river, you know, the forest around us, the birds and things, and it turned out that these were things, of course, that people really wanted to experience and be a part of. So we always had to use the environment that we were in, if you see what I mean.
So we were kind of eco before it was coined. We didn't even know what ecotourism was. We just developed that way because that's what we had available to develop with.
It was really hard, that's what I can tell you, because tourism wasn't happening in the interior at all. Basically, people were the kind of people who were coming through Cayo at that time, as Lucy said, were mainly Europeans. Belize City had a really bad reputation, and so people came in through Corozal on a bus, and they tried to get through to Melchor the same day, but sometimes they got stuck here. So in Cayo, there was a place called the Bullseye Candy Store, owned by Martin Galvez. That is exactly where Scotia Bank is now, on the High Street. And Martin used to have a little sort of paper and a sort of a poster on his walls, and people would go in there to buy sweets and that kind of stuff, and then he'd try and sort of, shift them up in our direction. We had a radio communication in those days which was absolutely useless, so we'd be sort of trying to talk to Martin, and we get halfway through a conversation, then Martin would sort of duck out and would say, "What the bloody hell, Martin?" And of course, that was the piece which he caught at the other end. So it was not a great marketing situation for us, but that's what we had to work with, and that's how it started. And then, of course, Lucy has handled all the marketing ever since and done a wonderful job.
Yeah, it was interesting too how the community did embrace us, because we had a lot of referrals. Obviously, we got on this backpackers trail, so people had referred people, and then they got into San Ignacio town. So if they didn't stop at the Bullseye Candy Store, there was always the post office where they went pick up their mail, and they also helped us to book us here at Chaa Creek, and then they would come by river taxi upriver. So we never knew who was coming, basically, pretty much until they arrived.
The first people in San Ignacio to have a fax machine. The banks didn't have one, anybody else. but we needed something where there was some kind of information which we know had reached the other end, and that we would have some kind of a recording that, you know, or referral to be able to get back. It made all the difference in the world. And as Lucy said, that, you know, if we got a booking or something, I had to go down to town in a dory because we didn't have a road coming in here in those days, and we picked people up by dugout. You know, you got the bloody suitcases you have to put up in the front, and then the dugouts are only this wide, and they're kind of cranky and everything else. And it was always, you know, and they'd always arrive kind of sort of late afternoon, so you were trying to get up here before dark, because trying to get people up to the, anyway, you can see the kind of nightmare.
Well, we built every year of our lives. Every year that we have been here, we have built something. Be it the Natural History Center, Butterfly Farm, all the attractions that we have here at Chaa Creek. Every single year we were in the process of building something. And I think the fact that we were able to do that really does talk to the number of artisans and craftspeople who we have in Belize. And I celebrate those people, because really, without them, this is all built by our Belizean people. Everything is sourced here and built here by our own Belizean people.
Believe you me, when you're doing it the way we did it, without any money, as I say, you know, a lot of it you had to do. You know, we learned to thatch, or I learned to thatch, you know, from the local people. I had to, you know, because we couldn't afford to have other people come in, or you'd thatch with them or something. And so you kind of, you know, people taught you which posts would last in the ground, because you weren't talking about building with cement or anything to start off with. That, of course, was, you know, came in the course of time. And whatever we have done, we've been kind of led by what our guests would indicate would be of interest to them. The swimming pool, for instance, you know, everybody used to go and swim in the river, but it was a long way to walk down to the river, and, you know, you cool off in the river, and then you walk all the way back up to the cabanas again, or whatever you call them, and you were stinking hot and sweating like crazy, and people wanted a pool. Well, that pool was an expensive thing to build, and you don't make money out of a pool, really. It's just customer satisfaction. But that was what the customers indicated they needed, so that's what we tried to provide.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we were led by our guest requests, and also by the people who we met. You know, like Charles Wright, for example. We never would have had a Blue Morpho farm, had we not met Charles, had he not come here. So there's also that sort of aspect of our life, meeting interesting people, learning about what they're doing, and saying, hey, that sounds fascinating. We would like to offer that to our guests as well. And before we started really pushing inland tourism, everyone thought Belize was an island. So I think the real game change in tourism came when we said, wait a minute, we're here and we're doing some interesting things. Watch us. After that, of course, we had more involvement. We saw little eco-lodges cropping up all over the country, following suit in a sense, realizing that, hey, you can start something with very little. Let's try that. And so now we have a number of wonderful lodges, as you know, in the Cayo district and around the country. So I think that really changed the way that our government and our nation thought about tourism. One thing that I just remember taking out my little mimeographed hand-drawn brochures to San Pedro and trying to do some sales, and people laughed at me. They just looked at me, and they looked at my brochures, and they just laughed. And I remember coming back to Mick heartbroken. But we said, you know what? We believe in what we're doing. We know what we're doing. We're focused on what we're doing. And in any event, we needed to survive. We were in. Well, we closed our barricade down on March 23rd. And we stayed with 23 of us behind the barricade, and we ran this place by ourselves. Of course, we had no guests, but we managed to maintain and do what we had to do. So closing with 183 and then only having with ourselves 27 people here, we had to get on with it. We had to make sure that our buildings were kept, that our grounds were, kept, and we just had to do the bare minimum, but keep everything in good order because we always had faith. We always had faith that tourism would reopen again, and so it is reopening now. But yeah, streamlining was definitely. I mean, we really had to put so many people on furlough. It broke our hearts. One of the things that we were able to do with our savings was at least pay our furlough staff the $75 a week the government was giving. We could match that through Social Security until we ran out of money, which is in January. But now we're so assisting people the best that we can with little programs that we're putting together for them. People are slowly coming back to work. So rather than, a lot of companies say, well, I'm going to fire everybody and then rehire. We said, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense because you have employees who are very well trained. They know your customer. They know your product. They are your marketers. They are out there selling you. They're your evangelists. So we're going to keep our employees. So we had things broken down into essential, core, and then we had core sort of like busy time, seasonal core. And so we had broken that down already. We had done, fortunately, before the pandemic, I don't know whether we had foresight or somehow, but we had broken our entire group down and we were able to maneuver in that way. I guess Mick has something to say.
Well, I just have to comment that our staff have been absolutely wonderfully supportive. I cannot tell you the extra energy. They all had to take pay cuts. Many of them, have taken a maybe half pay in salary. I mean, we've all done exactly the same, everybody from management all the way down. But we've explained it to them and everything else, and they have been a part of keeping this place going.
When people go home from Belize, they say, man, I met the most fabulous guide, Miguel. He took me up to the Maya sites. He was a real Maya, And then I went down and I met a Griffina, and they told me how to make their food. And then I went to another part of the country and I met a fisherman. I met a chiclero. So they're meeting all of these different people who have fabulous stories, and they can jump into their story, be part of their story. And this is the difference between going to Costa Rica, I feel, and coming to Belize. And I think that really what we need to do more of is promoting our cultures, promoting our people, and always keep people in the forefront of everything that we do, because that's what people talk about. That's what they write about on TripAdvisor. They write about who treated them well and who gave them a magical experience.
It's important that the growth also be organic. I think that it's you can't always predetermine exactly how your tourism product is going to be. We still have a lot of things, certainly in the interior, which have not even been opened up. I mean, we got the second largest cave system in the Western Hemisphere, apart from the second largest reef in the world. We have the Chiquibul Caves, which run from within Belize in the Chiquibul Forest all the way through to Guatemala into the Mopan River. It's an absolutely outstanding experience. These things are still to be developed. So when I say organic growth, I think we got to be really careful that we take it step by step. We don't try and jump in and have too much pressure. I think we've, as I say, we've got to let it happen slowly. That's how Belize is, how tourism has happened so far, and I think we have a very healthy tourism product because of that.
If you keep the people of Belize in the center of your universe, which is indeed where they should be placed, then I think whatever issues you have to deal with, you will come through it, and you'll come through it with a smile on your face at the end of the day.
And I think outside of people, you know, if you're going to be involved in this industry or in anything in the world, really, you know, follow your instinct. You know, listen to what your inner self is telling you. So often we think something and then we kind of talk ourselves out of it because so and so doesn't really, you know, no, that's not a good. You're crazy. Guavalim, for instance, I was given the hardest time with the name Guavalim. Oh, that's so this, that, and the other. There's no better, you know. When I heard, and this is kind of a little story in its own, because you know we were looking for a name for Guavalim, and we just didn't want it to be something like
Chaa Creek.
Or anything to do with that. You know, it had to. So we're up on the pontoon, and one of our staff, the same guy with the green shirt who was here just now, Jiggy. You know, we were having a little party on the thing, and Jiggy's kind of nice and nice up and everything else, and he's jumping out and said, "And slim and trim like Guavalim." And when he said that, I said, "That is the name of the." If you Google Guavalim, you don't find any other. You know. And everybody say, "Oh no, that's a crazy name." I mean, including right here.
I would say, well, who wants to go to a cafe to be slim and trim? I don't go there for that. I want to eat my cake.
But you know, it really. You know, I think you've got to have this. You've got to have this dream. You know, you've got to. You know, if you're not really into what you're doing, you might as well just pack it up and go home, go and do something else. So if anybody's getting into tourism or they want to get involved in it, you really have to put your heart into it.